Wow, that was great, guys. All right, thank you all for coming to Mantra House Thursday. We're so happy to have all of you here. Tonight we have a very special guest. Her name is Aastha Lal. I got to meet her last December at this super awesome holiday party, which remember some of you were there, and we got to play games, and I got to know her, and I'm like, wow, she's really cool. And then a couple of my friends told me that she does stand-up comedy. And I was like, wow, and then I asked her about it, and she's like, yeah, and she does stand-up comedy, but she also is an inspirational, motivational speaker, so she calls it inspirational comedy. And if you haven't befriended her yet, you totally should tonight, because she's the most awesome friend to have. I'm super grateful to have her in my life. She's always making you smile, laugh. One of those people that always makes you feel really good. And so I'm very, very grateful to have this person. Let's give a big round of applause for Aastha Lal.
Round of applause for Allison and all of her. This is awesome. If I could ask for one more favor, if I could have everyone just spit up a little bit, I'd love to see your beautiful faces.
I don't want my hair to get in front of the camera.
Oh, you're I'll tell you if you're
Okay.
Cool. Oh my god, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for everyone for coming out today. That was an amazing kirtan. I always come here and I feel like such a good vibe in this place, and so thank you so much for coming. I appreciate every single one of you for coming out. Feel free to get comfortable. Oh, you figured I should. Okay. So a little bit of background on me. Allison gave a wonderful introduction, but so my name is Aastha. It sounds like pasta, but without the T. Pretty simple, right?
Yep.
No, people screw up all the time. I've heard every single variation. I get a lot of Esther. A lot of astral. One time this old Indian man came up to me and he's like, "Hasta la vista, baby." And I was like, "Grandpa, that's weird. Please don't do that. It makes me uncomfortable." But I actually heard the best variation of my name recently. I was at the doctor's office and the nurse walks in and she looks at her clipboard and she goes, "Oh, I'm looking for ass turd? Is there an ass turd here?" So that was my favorite, actually. That was terrible, but that was my favorite. So you guys can call me Aastha like pasta. So yeah, a little bit more background on me. I've been doing stand-up comedy for about, I'd say 9 years now. And when I was first starting out, it was going great. I was doing shows all over the world, and I was selling out shows and headlining shows after a couple of years. And that's great for most comedians, because people would come to my shows and they would laugh and they would leave, and that's fantastic. But it wasn't good enough for me. I wanted people to come to my shows and laugh, but also leave with a little bit of a change in perspective in their life, a change in consciousness, a little bit of a happier perspective on their life from when they walked in through that door. So I hope today we can do that all together, that you leave with a little bit of a different perspective on your life, a little bit of a pep in your step, and just a more positive outlook on your life than when you first walked in. So we're all going to collectively try to do that together. Is that cool? You guys ready to have some fun with me? Make some noise if you're ready to have some fun with me. Alright, so we're just going to start with 3 deep breaths. So keep your inhales for 5 seconds and your exhales for 5 seconds. You can sit up nice and tall. And there's 3 deep breaths. 1, 2, 3. Exhale. Inhale. And exhale. One more time. And exhale. Alright. We're already feeling better. Yeah, a little bit. Sometimes we don't even stop to take a breath in our lives because they're so crazy. And so thank you for doing that with me. I want you guys to visualize, or I want you to think about something stressing you out right now in your life. It could be work-related or school-related or family-related. Think about something that's stressing you out right now. And I want you to write it down on an imaginary piece of paper in your mind, in your favorite color ink. Write it down on that piece of paper, fold that paper in your mind, put it on the top shelf, and then forget about it. Cool? And so I think we've built sort of a beautiful relationship in the past 4 minutes. What do you guys think? Yeah? I think we built it. So I want you to put your trust in my hands tonight, and I want to take you on a 2-minute visualization, okay? And it's only going to last a couple minutes, and all I ask is whatever I ask you to visualize it in perfect detail, okay? If I ask you to visualize curtains, I want you to think about the color, think about the texture, okay? So just visualize all of these great things, and I'll just take you on a little bit of a journey. So if I could have everyone sit up nice and tall and close your eyes. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. So a deep breath in, deep breath out. And I want you to imagine your 75th birthday party, okay? Now you got your hair did, you got your nails did, everything like that. What are you wearing? Are you wearing something fancy? Are you in pajamas because it's a pajama party, it's your party? Are we in an elegant dining hall? Are we in a Chuck E. Cheese? Where would you like your 75th birthday party? Picture the details. What's on the walls? Are there candles on the table? What color are the tablecloths? And if you're at a Chuck E. Cheese, what color are the balls in the ball pin? And I want you to imagine the people that you want there. Think about your friends, your family, if you had a couple kids, what do they look like? Are there curtains? And so, and remember, it's your 75th birthday party. Everyone here is here to celebrate you. So imagine their faces as you walk in through the door. And I want you to imagine that you have a hipster granddaughter. Let's give her a hipster name. Let's call her Clementine. And Clementine decides it's a great opportunity to put a chair in the center of the room, and she asks you to sit in that chair. And all of your loved ones are sitting around you, or they're sitting around you while you're in the middle of the room. And Clementine says, it's a great game. Let's toast to your life. Every single person has to say one thing about your life and the amazing 75 years that you've lived on this planet. So one by one, everyone stands up and says something about your life. Now, the question is, what do you want them to say about your life? Do you want them to say that a lot of your dreams went unfulfilled? That a lot of your days were unhappy or stressed and you spent a lot of time worrying about things that didn't matter? Or do you want them to say that you lived an amazing 75 years? You made a difference in your life and in the lives of other people. You spent every single day being compassionate and joyful and stress-free and trying to live every single day as happy as possible. At your 75th birthday party, as every single person that you love is toasting to your life, what do you want them to say about your life? You can take a deep breath in, deep breath out, and you can open your eyes when you're ready. Pretty cool visualization, huh? I mean, a lot of times we don't stop to actually think about our lives and our legacy and how we want to be remembered. I use this as a little trick if I'm having a little bit of a hurdle in my life and I'm trying to figure out which path to go to. I sometimes do this little visualization and it kind of helps me because at the end of the day, like, what type of life do I have I wanted to live? Have I inspired people around me? And so I do this little trick, and so feel free to leverage it if you need to. My mom actually tried to teach me a little bit of happiness. Oh yeah, the topic of the day is the art of happiness. And so we're going to talk a little bit about 3 key tools that I use in my life to have a more positive outlook on my life. And so my mom actually tried to teach me happiness when I was a little kid. And so she's Indian with a really heavy Indian accent, and so she would sit me down and she'd be like, Aastha, do you want to know the key to happiness? And even when I was small, I'd be like, yeah, sure, Mom, let's do it. And the thing with me when I was a kid, I had a constant running nose. Like, it was just like constantly wet. I was like a dog. It was just like adults didn't want to hug me. It was really weird. And in addition to that, this is a true story, I also had a really bad lazy eye. I got it done, like I got it fixed with surgery when I was a kid, but I had a really bad lazy eye. So like one eye was looking this way and the other eye was just off in the corner, like watching Game of Thrones or something. Like it was just doing its own thing. And my mom used to introduce me to her friends and she'd be like, this is my daughter Aastha. Her eyes are a little wonky. One is looking at London and the other is looking at Tokyo. And I never really understood my mom was being a jerk until like grade 4 geography when I realized where those places were. And she's like, oh, I was like, she's being a jerk. Anyway, so I was just a weird kid. Just imagine me with like a constant runny nose and a lazy eye, and my mom trying to teach me about happiness. And she's like, I would teach you about happiness, okay? And I was like, okay, well, I talked like Chucky from the Rugrats too. I had like a weird nasal thing. You guys know Chucky from the Rugrats? Okay, well, let's learn about happiness tonight. And so she tried to sit me down. She's like, okay. Happiness is simple. Simple. All you have to do in life is study hard, work hard, do all of your studies, and then go to medical school and become a doctor, and then you'll be happy. Simple, right? This is my actual life advice from my mother, is just go to medical school and be a doctor. And even when I was a kid, I was like, no, but I don't want to be a doctor. I want to be a comedian. I knew that when I was a kid. And so she'd be like, okay, plan B, okay? We have plan B. I want you to study hard, okay? Work really hard in school, study really hard, and then I want you to go to school, get a degree, and I want you to then hang around the medical school and marry a doctor, and then you'll be happy. Simple, right? Simple. Happiness simple. It's okay. And that was my mom's sort of advice for happidness, essentially. It's just to loiter around medical schools, essentially. And so it didn't work out so much for me, the whole doctor bit, but I like what I do now. So I do combine stand-up comedy and motivational speaking. I have a company called Goodness and Giggles. It's essentially combining those two things. It's a little bit like Deepak Chopra meets fart jokes, like a little bit of laughing and learning at the same time. So that's what we're going to do here today. The three things that I wanted to talk to you guys about, the first one is perspective, the second one is detachment, and the third thing is mindfulness. Okay, so we're going to go into the details of what all three of those things are. Cool? So the first tool is perspective, and I want to ask you guys all one question. Okay, it's going to get deep on a Thursday night. It's going to get fun. Now the question is, and if you remember nothing else from this talk, just remember this question and this answer. Okay? The question is, what defines the quality of your life? Ooh, it got deep on a Thursday night, huh? What defines the quality of your life? And I'll tell you the answer. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of your thoughts. Positive thoughts, positive life. Can it be that simple? We're going to find out today, okay? Just hold on to that one a little bit. Just keep it in your back pocket. And now we're going to play a little bit of a guessing game. On an average day, how many thoughts do you think the average person thinks? You feel free to just shout out an answer.
Millions.
Millions of thoughts. Can I get a 2 million? 12 thoughts. Of course a man would say that. Like, get up, go to the bathroom, go to work, come home, sleep. 12 thoughts, done. Fun. Of course a man would say 12 thoughts. Anybody else? So I got 1 million and I got 12. Anybody else?
1,000.
1,000 thoughts. Any other guesses?
9,000.
9,000 thoughts. Okay, we're getting close there. So they did a study and they figured out that on an average day, the average person thinks 60,000 thoughts. 60,000 thoughts. That's insane. You guys are thinking hundreds of thoughts right now, just as you're looking at me, right? You're like, oh man, shouldn't have had that Taco Bell last night. I don't know where the bathroom is in this place. I don't know. You know, it's just like hundreds of thoughts right now, just as you're looking at me. So I want you to think about your own lives for a second. How many of those 60,000 thoughts are positive thoughts? How many of those 60,000 thoughts are negative or stressful thoughts? A lot more thoughts, right? So I've come to realize in my life that if you want to be a happier person, you have to understand that there's a lot of things that we can't change in our lives, right? There's a lot that we can't change the weather, we can't change how our teacher or our boss is going to react to something that we do. We can't change anything. We can't control a lot of things either, right? We can't control if Donald Trump is going to start a Twitter war with a farm animal tomorrow, right? We can't control any of that stuff. Pretty likely, but we can't control it, right? And so the key that I've realized is to keep your thoughts in a positive perspective, right? No matter what happens in life, it's a matter of keeping our thoughts in perspective, because a lot of times in our lives, things could be a lot worse, right? And we never really stop to think about those things. And so one thing that I've learned is to train your brain to find the bright side of every single situation that you go through, right? And it's our mind is a muscle, and it's just a matter of training it. No matter what happens through our lives, training your brain to find that silver lining in every single situation. And so I'll give you an example. So say we're driving on the way to work, we're on the whatever highway, we're on the 405 or the 10 or whatnot, and we accidentally get into a fender bender, right? And we accidentally bump someone's bumper. And so automatically, where does your mind go? Oh crap, my insurance is gonna go up. My husband or my wife is gonna kill me. My boyfriend, my mom's gonna kill me. I don't have the money to get this fixed. We all just go into a completely negative place all of a sudden, right? And that's just how our bodies and our minds are trained, just to go to that negative place all of a sudden. But if we start to train our mind to find the bright side of that situation, where it's kind of like, okay, the first thought should be, okay, at least no one was hurt, right? It's a crappy situation. But if we can find that bright side every single time, it changes the entire perspective of the situation. But it's just a matter of finding that bright side. Second example, let's say you're at work and someone decides to reheat salmon in the company microwave. And it's just a salmon smell everywhere, right? Pretty crappy situation, right guys? What's the bright side of that situation? Well, at least you're not that guy, because everybody hates that guy, right? It's all about finding the bright side, guys. That was a terrible example, but I think you understand what we're trying to say, right? And so it's just a matter of keeping your mind and your thoughts in a positive place, and it changes our entire perspective to a lot of things. One of the books that have helped me a lot in my life is something called the Bhagavad Gita. Have any of you heard of the Gita before?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's just a book, and it's an entire book. It's just one conversation between two people, someone named Krishna and someone named Arjuna. And Arjuna is kind of like us, and he's asking a lot of questions about life, like what is the purpose of life? How do I deal with good days and bad days? How do I control my mind? And then Krishna gives us one example. He says that our mind is like our mind can be our greatest enemy or our best friend, essentially, right? And it depends on that relationship that we have with it. And so a lot of times our mind tends to be our biggest enemy because it tells us things that simply aren't true. Things like we're not good enough, or we're not smart enough, or we're not going to get this job, or we're not going to get to do this. It's kind of like a little Kellyanne Conway that just lives in our minds at all times and just like distributes fake news and tells us, right, that we're not good enough, or we're not smart enough, or that Trump had the biggest inauguration crowd of all time. Just like blatant lies, right, that we know aren't true. So it's a matter of understanding when our mind is not being our friend, and actually understanding that, hey, this isn't true, and so let's change these thoughts into more positive thoughts. And so one thing that it's already, what month is it? It's April? It's April. One thing that I can't change is the fact that it's already April and it's going to be November soon, which is my least favorite month of the year because of the whole Movember fiasco. How many of you just think Movember is just a really creepy time of the year? Anybody else? Yeah. The guy with the beard is like, it's my camera time. It's good. And so it's just something that I can't change and I have to deal with is the fact that it's Movember is just a weird time for me because as an Indian girl, I have been celebrating Movember unconsciously from the ages of 7 all the way up to 17. And so just celebrating prostate cancer awareness my entire life, completely unaware. Until I learned how to wax my own upper lip. That was a good day for everybody. What I'm trying to say, guys, is keep our thoughts in a positive perspective. And there's a lot of things that we can't control, but we gotta figure out the best way to deal with those and try to find that bright side every single time. And just keeping in mind that the quality of our life is determined by the quality of our thoughts, and all of our thoughts reside in a good and positive place. That correlates to an amazing positive life. Cool? So that's tool number 1. That is perspective. The second thing I want to talk to you guys about is detachment. What is detachment? Whew. Does anybody know? Does anyone want to take a stab at it? No? Cool. All right. Yeah, one in the back.
It's like something really bad happens to you, and then like so the bird poops on your head.
Yeah.
And you like trip and you fall, but then you're like detached from all that, and you're like, you know what? I don't care.
That was beautiful. That was poetic. That was almost poetic. That was nice. When a bird poops on your head and you're like, I don't care. That's fine. Essentially, yeah, you're on the right page, actually. Because it's a matter of not worrying about the things that you can't control, right? And not being attached to certain outcomes or certain expectations, right? Sometimes we have an expectation of a bird not pooping on our head, and when it happens, we're like, oh no, it's happening. But letting go of those expectations and not worrying about the things that you can't control in life. And so stress has become such a staple in our lives, right? I mean, we get stressed all the time. We probably stress driving here, trying to find parking, just stressed all the time. And one example of how stress has become a staple in our lives is like when we're unemployed, for example. How many of you have been unemployed at one point in your life, right? We've all been there, right? And the first 2 weeks of unemployment are amazing. They're so good. You're just hanging out, you're snuggy, you're catching that, you're binge watching Netflix, like you're having a great time, right? But after a couple weeks, you start to lose the will to live, right? You're like, I don't know what to do now. I don't know what to do. And then a stress cycle starts, right? It's kind of like, oh, what are my friends and my family going to think about me? What am I going to be doing? What's the next chapter of my career? What if people go on my LinkedIn and they see I haven't done anything for a whole bunch of time? You know, like we start this stress cycle. And even when we're going in, we get a job interview. We think, oh, okay. And then another stress cycle starts. We're like, I don't know if I'm going to answer the questions properly. I don't know what they're going to ask me. What if I'm not good enough? What if I'm not smart enough? What if I'm not qualified enough? What if I just get really sweaty and there's just like a bead of sweat just running down my face and into my mustache, and then I'm like, I'm applied to be a waitress. I hope they don't think I'm a man. You know, like another stress cycle starts from there, right? Even when we get the job. Right? Even that day that we start the job, where another stress cycle starts. Do I even know how to do this job? Am I going to figure it out? What if they figure out that I just completely lied on my resume and I have no idea what I'm doing? And another stress cycle starts from there, right? But a lot of times we can't control a lot of those things, right? Especially during an interview. We can't control if the interviewer has had a bad day and a bird pooped on his head and he's going to take it out on me in that interview, right? We can't control that. But we can't control how well we prepare for that interview, how well we practice, right? We can't control anything else besides that. And so the formula for detachment is simple. And it's going to sound like something that your mom says to you when you're studying for your grade 4 fractions quiz, you know what I mean? The key to detachment is essentially all we can do in our lives is try our best and not worry about the things that we can't control beyond that, right? Trying our best and not being attached to certain outcomes or certain expectations and the things that we can't control, right? So I'll give you a personal example of how I've had to learn detachment in my life. And let's go back like 9 years when I was doing I think my 3rd or 4th comedy show of all time. It was very, very new to comedy. And I remember going on stage and it was at this hipster bar, and I was telling this one joke, and remember, I'm still fresh to comedy, so like super nervous, super like my hands are clammy, like I'm just super nervous, and I told this one joke, and I thought it was a genius joke, and I told this joke, and nobody laughed. And every single comedian, from Chris Rock to Russell Peters, every single comedian remembers the very first time that they bomb on stage, because it is the most terrifying, like gut-wrenching feeling in the world. Because I told that joke, nobody laughed, and all I wanted to do was run off stage and cry and never be on stage again for the rest of my life. That's how heartbreaking it was. And so I remember going home that day and just being completely distraught and being like, oh, I can't believe like this happened, like they didn't laugh, blah, 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 blah. And it's only until months later that I learned about detachment, right? Because at the end of the day, all I can control is how well I write my jokes, how well I deliver my jokes. But the moment the joke leaves my lips, I have no control over it whatsoever. So why be attached to something that I can't control, right? So I want you to think about the things in your life where you're working really hard and it's not going your way, but are you attached to certain outcomes that are beyond your control, right? So that's how I had to learn detachment in my life. And again, the formula is simple. Trying our best in life and not worrying about the things beyond our control. I also want to talk to you guys about the biggest lie that we've all been told. And the biggest lie that we've all been told is that the only way to be happy is to be successful. A lot of times we've been told that from our parents, especially if we have immigrant parents. Round of applause if you have immigrant parents in the room. Yeah? This lie that the only way to be happy in life is to be successful. And we're raised with this mentality of get. Go to school, get good grades, get a degree, get a job, get a family, get, and then you'll be happy, right? But our minds and our bodies and our brains don't work like that, because every time we achieve success, our brain pushes and if success is sort of at the goalpost, right? Let's think about this as football a little bit. If success and happiness is here, and every time we achieve it, our brain kind of pushes that goalpost a little bit further and further and further. And so technically, we don't actually get to that happiness place, right? We get good grades in school, we want even better grades, right? We get a good job, we want a promotion. We find the man of our dreams, we want to sleep with the gardener, right? Like, maybe that's just the plot to Desperate Housewives. But, right, every time we achieve some sort of success, our brain always pushes that goalpost of happiness a little bit further, so cognitively we never really get there. But our brains work in the opposite order, right? Positivity leads to success and happiness and a more well-rounded life and a better outlook on life, right? Because our brains function better at positive than they do at negative or stressed or neutral, right? So it's just a matter of switching those things around. And so at the end of the day, I just want to come back to detachment for a second and just remembering that formula. Every time that we're going through a stressful situation in our lives, what can I do in this situation? What can I control in this situation? And am I giving it my 110%, right? And if you can do that and detach from everything else beyond that, that's a good and unstressful place to be. And so essentially that is tool number 2, detachment. And the third thing I want to talk to you guys about is mindfulness. And so we remember the first 2 tools, right? What was tool number 1? Perspective, right? And tool number 2? Detachment. And the third thing I want to talk to you guys about is mindfulness. Now, what is mindfulness? Which is a buzzword that's just thrown around all the time now. Now, show of hands, how many of you have opened a bag of potato chips and you promise yourself you're only going to eat 1 potato chip, and then you eat a second potato chip, then you eat a third potato chip, and by the time you know it, the entire bag of potato chips is gone? Does that happen to any of you? Ever? Yep. A couple of you, right? It happens all the time. But when you start driving somewhere, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna go to this place. I have no idea how you got there. Has that ever happened to anybody? Because you're just like on autopilot, right? This is a personal example, third example. How many of you have sat down to watch YouTube and you promise yourself you're only gonna watch one cat video? And then you watch a second cat video. Then you watch the third cat video. And then it's like 3 hours later, and you're on your like 75th cat video, and it's not even a cat video at this point. It's just like a Japanese man in a schoolgirl's outfit, like dancing around with like 50 cats. You're like, oh my god, what am I watching? How did this become my life all of a sudden? Does that ever happen to anybody? Just me? Just me? Okay, cool. There's a couple of you in here, right? So all of those examples are the opposite of mindfulness, right? Mindfulness means to be present and grateful for your current moment in your life. And all of those other examples are kind of like you're living your life on autopilot, right? And we tend to do that a lot in our lives, just live on autopilot and not actually focus on the present moment. And so you're probably saying to me, Aastha, what if I like potato chips, and what if I like Japanese men with cats? You know, like what's wrong with living on autopilot? The harm with living our lives constantly on autopilot is that we fail to notice the good things in our lives. You know? And when we start to just live on autopilot, all of those good moments just pass us by. And after a while, our lives just start to pass us by. And after that, if we're at our 75th birthday party and a lot of our life was on autopilot and we weren't actually grateful for certain moments in our lives, then it's kind of just a big monotonous blur, our lives, right? So it is important to have moments of gratitude, to come to places like this and actually ask these questions and actually learn how to be mindful. Because a lot of times we don't do it in our normal lives, right? And so at the end of the day, mindfulness, a big part of it is what I'd like to say pauses of gratitude as well. How do we be grateful for these moments in our lives? Is to have pauses of gratitude throughout our day, right? The first moment that we wake up, we can either be like, oh crap, I have to go to school or I have to go to work, or we can change that thought and have the first thought of our day be one of gratitude. We wake up and we say, okay, I'm thankful for blank. I'm thankful for this day. I'm thankful for this healthy body. I'm thankful to be able to go to this place soon. Changing our first thought of the day changes our entire day. And I want you guys to start practicing it tomorrow morning. Have the first thought of your day be a thought of gratitude, whatever you're grateful for. And it changes the entire outlook of the rest of your day. And if you forget in the morning, have it throughout the day. When you're waiting in line for lunch, or when you're driving to work or school, or wherever you're going, before you go to bed at night, have pauses of gratitude throughout the day. Because the more times that you look for good things in your life, you're going to find more good things every single time that you look. Because it's not happiness that makes us grateful. It's gratefulness that makes us happy, right? It's gratefulness that makes us happy. So it's just a matter of taking those moments throughout the day to pause and be grateful, right? Cool. Another thing that I want to talk to you guys about is letting go of comparison as well. We compare all the time, especially on social media, right? We compare our friends' vacation pictures, their brunch pictures, their relationship goals. We compare all the time. Even I'm guilty of it too. When I was a kid, I used to compare the size of my mustache to the size of my brother's mustache. Just like guilty of comparison, right? We do it all of the time. And so, actually, science has proven that the more time we spend on social media and these comparative mindsets that we have, it actually leads to depression, right? So what kills, and a lot of times that we get sad just going through our news feeds and seeing other people's lives, and like we get the amazing shots of their life, and we're like sitting at home with a cup of noodles, and you're like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing with my life, right? But what kills that sadness? What can kill that sadness? Understanding that people's paths and lives are different, right? And understanding that gratitude can kill the sadness that comes from comparison. So just remember that next time you're on social media. Just remember that gratitude can kill that sadness. And also, you're in charge of your social media feeds too, right? If there's accounts on there that make you feel bad about yourself, take them out, right? You don't need that kind of negative energy in your life, right? Unfollow them, unsubscribe. We're in charge of that, right? And a lot of times we just kind of let it slide, but after a while it starts to affect our energy and our mood as well. So be conscious of that. The next thing I want to talk about in relation to mindfulness is meditation. Now, how many of you have tried meditation before or attempted to? Okay, a couple people. All right. So meditation is, at first, like when I was first starting talking about this, like maybe years ago, people like thought it would just be like a monk with a shaved head, just like meditating in a forest or in a mountain. But it's actually becoming more and more mainstream because science has proven the benefits of meditation, right? It's known to boost the immune system and reduce cortisol levels and reduce stress levels and reduce anxiety and risk of heart disease and all of these great things. And now it's becoming like a thing that's like, okay, cool, I don't have to be a monk and go into a forest and do this. I can do this every single day. I can do it in my cubicle, I can do it on my way to work, right? And so I want to teach you guys like a quick meditation because a lot of times our lives are so stressful and we're just running around doing this and doing that, and we don't actually have moments to just sit and breathe and meditate. So we're just going to do a quick breathing meditation. And so I want you to sit nice and tall with your head and your neck and your back erect. And I want you, I know that's a funny word, it's good. And I'm like a little boy too, so as soon as I said it, I was like, don't giggle, don't giggle. And so I want you to remember that meditation, it's kind of like your brain is doing a bicep curl, okay? And a lot of times I'm gonna get you to focus on your breath, and a lot of times your mind is gonna wander to 50 million places. I need to get a haircut. I need to do this. Why is she gonna stop talking? Why is she talking like that? Why is she moving her hands like that, right? Your mind is gonna wander to 500 different places. But the key is to understand that it's wandering and bring it back to your point of focus. Whether it's a mantra, whether it's your breath. Today it'll be your breath. So I want you to think of meditation as kind of like you have a little kid that you brought to a grocery store, and the little kid will wander into every single aisle. But all you have to do is you have to grab it by its collar and bring it back. Not in like a violent way, like we don't call child services or anything. But like, bring it back. Every time your mind starts to wander, just bring it back, bring it back, bring it back. And that is actually meditation. The fact that you're aware that your mind's going somewhere else, and you kind of like slap it and bring it back, that is the bicep curl for the mind, okay? And so we're gonna try it today. All right. So when we're breathing in and out, I want you to remember where your breath is coming from. Is it coming through your nose? Do you feel it in your belly? Do you feel it in your chest? Imagine like where that breath is coming from, and then focus on that area. Okay. So we're gonna do it quietly for a couple minutes. After a couple minutes, I'm gonna start to distract you, but I want you to focus on the breath. Okay. So we're just going to start with deep breaths in and out. You can inhale for the count of 5, exhale for the count of 5, and if we could just close our eyes now and do our own quiet little personal meditation. Deep breaths in, deep breaths out. And focus on where your breath is coming from. Focus on that part of your body. Focus on your breath. And if your mind starts to wander, it's okay. Just bring it back to your breath. Caw-caw, caw-caw, caw-caw. Focus on your breath, focus on your breath. That is just the sound of your mind distracting you. Focus on your breath. Do you want to know a secret to happiness? Focus on your breath. Your mind is distracting you. Bring it back to your breath. Caw-caw. Ah. Deep breaths in and out. Take 2 more deep breaths in and out, all the while focusing on your breath. One more breath in and out, then you can open your eyes. Ooh! Now, round of applause for yourself, because you guys just did your very first breath meditation. If that's something you've never done before. A lot of times we're stressed out in lives, and I guarantee that if you just do that for 2 minutes, in whatever situation that you're in, whether you're at work or school or driving, and you're stressed out and you're full of anxiety, if you do that one little meditation for 2 minutes, I guarantee you'll feel better afterwards, right? Because a lot of times we don't breathe properly, or we're not focused on actually just stopping and pausing and breathing and getting enough oxygen inside our minds and our bodies. And that's why we just feel stressed out. So I promise you, if you're in the stressful situation, that will cure it 100%. So I just want to wrap up and kind of talk about the things that we talked about today. So the first tool was perspective, right? Keeping our minds in a positive place. And if the quality of our thoughts, or the quality of our life is determined by the quality of our thoughts, and all of our thoughts are in a good, positive place, it's guaranteed to be a good, positive, awesome life, right? And it's a matter of finding that bright side every single time, in every single situation in our lives. The second tool was detachment. Trying our best in life, trying our best, and not worrying about the things that are beyond our control or our expectations, or our expectations of certain outcomes, right? And the third tool, that's true, the mindfulness, right? Having moments of pausing for gratitude throughout our entire life and through our entire days, and starting tomorrow with a thought of gratitude and continuing that every single day. And I promise you it'll change the outlook of your entire life if we can have more pauses for gratitude throughout the entire day. Because it's not happiness that makes us grateful, it's gratefulness that will make us happy. And it's just a matter of remembering those moments. And guys, remember, Rome wasn't built in a day, right? We have 60,000 thoughts. So it takes time to change negative thinking patterns, right? And to turn them into more positive thinking patterns. But with practice, it can be done, right? And I want you to think about your 75th birthday party. And from the bottom of my heart, I hope it's an amazing, amazing time. And I wish you all an amazing journey for the next however many years you get to 75. And I want you to think about your original thing that you were stressed out about. You remember that? It was in the top shelf of your mind. And I hope now, after this talk, it doesn't seem so bad anymore, right? Because with a little bit of positivity and the tools that we talked about today, it could be a lot worse, right? And so that is the art of happiness. Thank you so much for listening to this talk.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna.